Hi everyone, this is Teo from PakaBlocks.com. Welcome to another sketching video. Now in this video I will be talking about sketching huge objects like buildings. Now in a separate YouTube video someone commented saying that he or she can draw small objects well, but when it comes to drawing huge objects like buildings, he or she doesn't know how to tackle the subject or approach the subject matter. So in this video I will show you my thought process to drawing buildings. I will also show you some of the examples of the sketches that I've drawn over the years. So let's get right into it. Alright, the first and most important thing about drawing the building is, or drawing big objects, is don't get too caught up with the little details. So if you are drawing a big building, don't draw the little details like the doors and windows, the people inside the buildings first. Let me show you an example. Now you start by drawing a big shape. Let's say this is a piece of paper. And usually for very complicated scenes, I would use a pencil first to sketch out the proportions of the building and to get the building in shape. So in this case, let's say I want to draw this big shape of the building first. In this case, I want to make sure that the building fits inside the page. So the top of the building and the bottom of the building should be inside the page. The first line that you put down is very important because it is that line that is going to determine the proportion and the height of other buildings in the sketch. This is because this is the tallest building in the sketch, so all the other buildings will be sort of shorter than this building, and we'll be using this height of this building as a comparison. So let me just draw in the different sides of this particular building. There's a little perspective thing going on. So the building, this is the side of the building that's going away. Let me draw another building here on the right side. Yep. Okay, and maybe a row of shorter building that goes at the back. So now I've drawn the general shapes, the bigger shapes of the building. I can go in and subdivide the building into different floors. Like maybe this building, it's 4 floors, for example. Usually I would draw buildings like this in on location. So this is what I will normally do, the exact process when I'm doing location drawing. Maybe add a little bit of the roof, stuff like that. But I'll keep it very rough because this is just a pencil sketch. So after I've gotten in the shapes of the building, so the shapes are actually pretty general, pretty simple, very blocky type. Now that I have the big shapes, I will then go in to fill in the details like the windows and other stuff, maybe a signboard here, windows here, and stuff like that. So get the big shapes first before you go in with the details. The reason is because, let me show you an example if I don't go in with the big shapes first. Let's say I want to do a drawing of 4-story building. So the building will have 4 stories. Let me just draw maybe the first story first. Maybe something like this. And this is the ground floor. There's someone standing here. That's the window. The signboard here. So let me start with the second story, which is also about the same height as the ground floor. And then third story. And by the time I come up to the 4th floor, I've ran out of space. That's because I misjudged the size of the first window that I drew just now. When I started, I just drew in the height of the first floor and some windows, and I misjudged that. I drew it too big. So because I drew it too big, I have to draw all the other floors at the same size of the first floor, and because of that, I ran out of space. So the approach to this is basically to same thing. A 4-story building, try to get in a rough draft first. If you're not comfortable, just use a pencil. I started out with a pencil, and so just draw in the rough height of the building first, and then subdivide the building into different parts so that you can draw in the windows and fit the windows into the building, and make sure that the windows are proportional in terms of height to the building itself. So now I have a building that is inside, that fits exactly into the page of the paper, and I did not run out of space. So let me explain a bit more on the height of the first building, the first line that you draw. Say I'm drawing a cityscape scene, a cityscape. So with a lot of skyscrapers. So a cityscape would be sort of like a landscape. And then there will be a lot of skyscrapers. So this is the building, the first building skyscraper that I put in. The height is very important because all the other shorter skyscrapers will be a fraction of the height of the tallest building here. So this building may be at 3/4, half, 7, 8. So maybe half again. Maybe this building is the same height. Also, let's say we have another very tall building here that is twice the width of this particular building, and half again, half height, maybe 3/4 again. So this was the first building that I put down. So this height will determine the height of all the other buildings. So all the other buildings are actually just a fraction of the height of this first building. So that's important to take note. And sometimes when you're drawing, maybe you don't want to fit the building in the picture. Maybe you want part of the building to go out of the frame, for example. Let me draw a scene with a 1-point perspective. So let's say the horizon line is here. And I have moved my perspective point to this side so that I can see more of the wall of the buildings on the right side. So maybe like put one building here, perspective point. Let me draw. This will be the building on the left side, and then we have, let's say, the buildings on the, because like this. So all this will be basically buildings that, some of these buildings will go out of frame. For example, this building will be cropped off at this particular point. But all these buildings, they will have windows and stuff like that. Yep. So sometimes you may not be able to fit the building into the frame, but that's on purpose. So this is basically just my composition that I use. Let me show you some paintings that I drawn in real life, some pen and ink sketches that I've drawn in real life, and you will be able to tell, you might be able to recognize some of those examples. Okay, this is the first example. So this example is actually the one that I drew just now, except I drew it in real life. So I went down there to draw this particular sketch. So like what I've said just now, I drew in the big shapes first, basically just the outline. Again, if you're not comfortable, do it in pencil first before you ink it. After that, you can erase the pencil line. It's not very difficult. The pencil is really very helpful. When I started out, I used the pencil a lot. But now, after drawing, after a lot of practice, I can sort of gauge the height of the buildings quite well, and I go straight into ink without using the pencil. But that comes with practice, and with practice you can really learn to gauge the height of the buildings and the little details very well. So in this case, I drew in the blocks, the surface of the buildings in general shapes first. And then after that I will fill in the windows, divide the buildings into different sections, and then I fill in the windows, the little details, the traffic lights, the people standing on the streets, car parked along the streets and stuff like that. And then I add in watercolor. Let me show you another example. This is an example of, I would say this example would be quite similar to this one that I showed you just now again. Drawing the big shapes first. This is actually the height of the building. So I draw in the big shapes first and then I fill in the windows. If I've drawn in the windows first, I might run out of space or the composition might change a bit. So I use a pencil line and then again draw the big shapes, the roof shape, the side here, and then the side here, and then followed by this temple in the background. And then I fill in the details. This is an example of this one that I talked about just now. So same thing. The height of the first line that you draw, the height of the tallest building will determine the height of all the other buildings. So in this case, we have the taller buildings around this area, and you can see that all the buildings that are at other areas, they are just shorter, just a fraction of the height of all the tall buildings here. This is a very simplified sketch. I added no details at all. That some of the buildings you cannot even see the windows because I did not draw them in. So for this particular sketch, I am only practicing drawing the shapes of the buildings itself. So sometimes if you get too caught up with the details, maybe you want to start out by practicing just draw the general shape of the building without any windows, decorations, or stuff like that. That will help you practice getting the shapes correct and the proportion correct. This is same example, almost the same example. Height of the tall building will determine the height of all the other buildings. Okay, here's an example where parts of the buildings are cropped off. On the left side, this building is cropped off also at the top, and also a bit at the bottom is cropped off. So this example here is actually this particular example. It's a 1-point perspective, and I chose to crop off the buildings here because these buildings are quite tall, and if I were to fit this building into the sketch, everything will be made smaller. For example, if this building is this building, and then this building is already smaller than this building. So if I were to fit everything in, everything inside will be a bit smaller. So try to plan your sketch first in pencil and then draw them out. You don't really have to fit in the whole building if you do not want to. It's part of your composition. Here's a sketch of a red church in Malacca. For this is the building doesn't have much detail, so basically same thing. I blocked out area of the building. Now using the height of this building, I then use this height and leave enough space at the bottom, which is equivalent to the height of building. I left this much space because I wanted to show the ground in front of the building. This is a rather complicated scene, so with a lot of things going on, and using draft it with pencil first would be much easier to complete the sketch, and there will be less mistakes, especially when it comes to complicated scenes like this. So there are a lot of things going on, and after you get the height of the building in first, the rest of the scene will be in proportion. So that is very important. So that is how I approach drawing huge buildings. Basically just to draw the big shapes first and then fill in the smaller shapes later on. When you're starting out, I would suggest using a pencil to draft out the shapes first. When I first got started, I used pencils for very complicated scenes, just to lay out the shapes, because I don't feel very comfortable. If I get the shapes wrong, I can erase and start over again. But after a lot of practice, I can now sort of measure the shapes more accurately, and I draw straight in ink. For example, this one I drew it straight in ink. But when you're starting out, you don't feel very comfortable, use the pencil. And use pencils to practice drawing big shapes first. Don't focus on the details, just draw. If you are looking at several buildings, just draw the shapes of the buildings, and don't even draw the windows. Just get the shapes correct, and then after that, go in and fill in the windows. This will train your eye as well for proportion, on how you can measure proportion. So that's all for this technique. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comment section below. And thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'll be posting more sketching videos and tips and techniques, as well as art product reviews. So thank you and have a nice day.